Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now today's episode, we spend a lot of time talking about how to use the best credit cards and when, but is there ever a time where you would not want to use a credit card, holster it in place of cash? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So of course, if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now obviously this channel is focused on maximizing credit card value on money that you already have to spend. But sometimes you might want to holster your plastic or your metal, I guess, and use cash or another form of payment like a check, which, wire, which is still basically cash. So, why would you want to do this? Because, again, the goal is to spend money that you already have to, use the appropriate credit card with the highest multiplier, and get cash back or travel points or what have you. Well, there's a few different reasons. There's not many, but there's a few instances. So the first instance, very simply put, is times where you can't use a credit card, right? Some places block using credit cards for various reasons. We'll talk about them. So your loans, right? Auto loans, mortgages, for example, those are historically you cannot pay with a credit card. Part of it is you can't pay debt. They don't want you to pay debt with debt because, next go around, next billing cycle, there's no context into why you're doing this. So you could potentially have to make a choice on do you pay your mortgage payment or do you pay your Visa bill, right? And they don't want to be a part of that. So they kind of say, no, you just have to do a bank transfer, write us a check, something like that. In addition to that, some companies don't like you to use credit cards because of chargebacks. They simply don't want to deal with chargebacks at all. And a chargeback is when, you buy something and let's say the service doesn't go correctly. The item's broken, the company refuses to take it back. They don't, won't refund you. They go radio silent, what have you. Chargeback is a way to protect yourself. However, there are various people out there who will actually buy stuff, get it, and then just file a chargeback and hope that they can get off the hook not paying it, paying for the item. So some stores, some places just say, no, we're not doing credit cards. Chargebacks is too much. You're not going to see that too often at, many stores, obviously retailers and stuff accept, credit cards. But, for example, I like watches and, there's some watch dealers online who will take credit cards, but over a certain amount of money, they will not take credit card. And the reason being is they don't want to deal with this chargebacks and the hassles and things like that and having to fight it. So that's the obvious one, like when you cannot use a credit card. Now, the other ones here, it's almost left up to interpretation or what you personally feel or want to do. So sometimes, there's two different prices. You've seen the gas stations where it's one price is cash and one price is credit because, again, credit cards, they charge swipe fees, merchant fees, things like that. So that's how, Visa and the payment networks make their money along the way. So, some stores will pass that on to the customer. I don't want to pay this fee, so you're going to pay this fee. Now, many stores, many stores, I believe these fees are just already wrapped up into the price of all the items, right? There's a prevailing theory out there that everything is 3 to 4% more expensive, inflation argument aside, simply to account for our chosen payment method. People have long since made the argument that folks who pay in cash, also help, subsidize everyone else's credit card points. I don't know that we'll ever have much of a say in that or ability to prove it outright. So I think it's a fair assumption to a degree to make. They can offer different prices. Usually there's usually a smaller diner where I worked where they would just simply charge you 2 or 3% more if you paid with a credit card. If you paid with cash, then they would pass that savings on to you. And then when you do that in those situations, I think it's kind of up to you. You're really talking about more of a convenience play than anything else. If you're at the gas station, I think I just kind of deal with it, right? I personally try to go to gas stations that only charge one price. Where I live, there's 2 gas stations next to each other. There's a Shell and there's a Kroger gas station, which is owned by Kroger, the grocery chain. Shell charges 2 prices, usually 10 cents higher. Kroger charges 1 price, so I refuse to go to the Shell because I don't want to support that type of business, even though, yes, to our earlier point, Kroger's also pricing it in as well, but, it's just right in my face, so I choose not to. Now, for me, I do carry cash. I do believe every person should carry cash. I try to carry at least $100. You never know when you need some hush money or something, right? But, having to go into the gas station, pay with your cash, get change, then if you don't use it all, having to go back and get it, I think the convenience of using the card is much cleaner, personally. Now, again, you might disagree, and that would be totally fine. It's a personal preference almost. Another good example, a little bit more extreme, would be if you ever had home repair people, contractors come over. a plumber come over a while back, and they charge 4% if you paid with credit card, which is obviously them saying don't pay with credit card, because I don't think it costs 4%. 3 to 3.5 is usually like the max that people charge. Again, you could have the same convenience argument of it's just much easier to pay with a credit card, but in this case, a lot of these contractors are getting better with Venmo, PayPal, taking things like that. They will take things like that sometimes, check or just straight cash. I think I'll go that route to save the 4% personally, because that's, for me, it's too in my face. There's another use case, I guess you could say, is kind of our last use case of when negotiating, for certain prices. Like if you have someone come over, again, they're fixing something. I've often said, okay, obviously, what does it cost, right? So I try to have the money for them, but I'll say, okay, they'll give me the price. I'll say, okay, but what's the cash price? I'll say, just say, what's the cash price? And usually everyone knows what that means. Now, not everyone plays ball, right? I've had somebody, I got a carpet guy one time say, the price is the price. Like, all right, fine. Well, then you're getting a credit card, right? But for other people, a drywaller, something like that, and like, yeah, you're paying $100, just say it's $100, and they're like, all right, well, maybe it's $90, $85. It's not going to be like this massive savings, but you can go in and you can usually use 3% as your benchmark. You should be saving, you offer them cash, you should be saving at least 3%. You can also make the argument, if I'm paying them cash, they can write it up on their books for whatever they want. It's important that you always ask for a receipt if you're paying cash, just in case, so you can show proof of payment. But they could technically write it up for 90 or $50, $75. That's between them and their bookkeeper. We don't get into that. But I do use that sometimes. Is okay, what's the cash price? There are other times, really quick here for one more, like if you're going to go into, again, a watch store, right? A lot of what we call them authorized dealers in your malls and jewelry stores, yeah, of course they take credit card, right? But if you're trying to negotiate a better price, which is not, uncommon to do, you can say, okay, well, what if I pay cash? And we should be careful here that cash doesn't always mean handing someone physical cash. In a lot of instances, they won't take cash, because you give someone more than $10,000. In our watch example, a lot of watches, jewelry is more than $10,000. That creates a headache for them. I believe they had to fill out a certain form for large cash transactions, because the government is nosy. Someone's got to go to the bank, this, that, and the other. But really, you could either write a check. Some places may make you come back for the item later. If it's a personal check, you could get a cashier's check, or you could do a wire. Now, cashier's checks, I think, like $8, $10. Wires are $35, something like that. But again, if you offer to do methods like that, there are still forms of secured payment. You should easily be saving the credit card fees, honestly. And that when you're talking about a large purchase, 3%, 4% adds up. So I would keep it in my back pocket for that, because it's going to outdo whatever multiplier you were going to get. Maybe if you were going to get a sign-up bonus, then sure, do the math. But you can keep it in your back pocket for that. But really, those are my use cases for when you don't want to use a credit card. And see, it's few and far between, honestly. We're talking about when you can't, when it's optional, or when you can use it as a negotiating trip. Other than that, I always reach for the plastic, obviously, because of the purchase protections and the benefits, which I would say is the last part of this, is that you do, even if you're doing the negotiation piece, you do want to weigh what those benefits are worth to you. So if I go back to the watch example, a lot of purchase protections only work on new items. So this, for example, this is an Omega Speedmaster Dark Side of the Moon. I bought this used. I have no problem buying used. This isn't really about watches, but I have no problem buying used watches. I prefer it because you save a lot of money. But purchase protections don't cover used items. They cover new items, right? So in that case, well, I'm not losing anything if I go in with cash and negotiate the credit card fee, right? You also want to check the dollar amounts on these things. How much do your protections go up to? If you're buying something, again, that's expensive, well, then, you might be out of luck anyways. So it's important to, weigh the pros and cons of those benefits and what you're giving up versus the savings. What is the warranty that the store offers? You might not need it. Are you going to add insurance yourself, right? If you're buying a phone or a computer, but you're already putting Apple Care on it, then you might not really need the purchase protection to that level, because you're already going to buy, insurance in some other form. It's really just up to you on a situational basis. But overall, that's kind of how I look at it. Any other time, I'm definitely reaching for the credit card, as you would imagine a professional like myself does. So anyways, guys, that's been it for this one. Of course, if you liked it, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, we're posting content just like this every single week. Of course, right back here every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. And of course, every single day over on ProfitableContent.com, where we have the latest bank bonuses, card offers, and news stories. Again, love to hear your thoughts on this down below. Let me know how you approach when to use and when not to use a card. What savings have you been able to negotiate, if any, from not using a card? I'd love to get your thoughts on that. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you very soon in the next one.